Okay, well, so you all know what you entered for. When I was asked for like giving this this webinar, then I was considering which topic should be the most fitting for me, and basically this is something that I'm nowadays quite deeply living, because I'm really deep into these issues, both at the national team level and also at the club level in our everyday life with my own kids, which is always something special. So that's why it's done with love, as I say. So to start with, just I want to emphasize that this will be something like a case study, not. Pardon? Okay. This is something like a case study. So when I will be talking, you should be aware of the fact that what I'm describing is really quite specific for our federation, our, let's say, structure of competitions that we have, our spot in the middle of the Europe, with our terrains, with our traditions. And I had to add also this famous soldier shake, because this is a little bit also how we are. So all this is somehow involved. So I would like to start with definition of the topic, because many people really think that orienteering has not so much to do with the kids level. You can hear it quite often, that the most important thing is that the kids want to have fun, and it's not very important how they navigate. They will learn it later. But my belief is that we really miss a great chance here. And my task this evening will be to try to convince you about this approach. Some sentences, like direct speeches, that maybe I use quite often. Yeah, based on this, you can still consider if you will be interesting to listen to this presentation, or if you switch off. But I very often repeat to our kids that there is no this way pointing when we talk about maps. I always try to ask what you want to see and what exactly you were doing at this moment or that moment. Meaning that I'm not solving that much which route, but how. How was the implementation plan, and how was it implemented? So it shortly said, I'm just repeating, when they start to point into the map, I'm just repeating, no, there is no this way. Then quite often, unfortunately, I have to say to my kids, to those eager ones, later, be patient. And that's something I will explain later in the presentation. Then a typical struggle is that the people, when you ask about how to improve their navigation stability, they are talking mainly about improved concentration. That sounds like a recipe for everything, but my belief is that concentration is fine and fundamental, but first you need to know how to do it. Then you can focus on that. And the last one on this page, each leg has its solution, and really emphasize the word solution. And this looks like a terrible cliche, but if you think about it, and if you don't understand the solution as only which route choice you take, but really what is happening in your head and how exactly you implement that leg, then we are talking about the solution. And I think this is one of the critical features and a critical way of understanding the navigation. So now jumping a little bit aside, but I just want to explain why I am so much into this. My mission in the club started back in 2018 when I actually left the Czech national team after 16 years as a head coach. And it was a coincidence that I was a part of a group of parents, and we started this kids group for our kids, which were around 8 years then, 7-8 years. And since then we are developing. So these kids are nowadays 15, 16. And of course, I'm trying to provide the best of me the same way like I'm doing in the national team. Yeah, maybe we should admit that, of course, if it's own kids, then there is some special X factor included as well, involved. And then we can call it an extended mission. I'm now back in the Czech Federation, and I am very happy that I can try to help to adapt our federation processes, approach to kids and youth development, so that we can use our expertise from the national team level and try to really influence it at the roots. Because as I already declared, I really think that there is a huge space, huge potential for improvement already at that stage, working with kids. This could be very boring part, so I will try to take it really quickly, but I thought it's quite important just to say what is good, because after that I will focus mainly on let's say space for improvement, challenges, weaknesses, and you could really say that the Czech Federation nowadays is really successful at the level of youth and juniors, which is true. Our athletes are returning home with medals regularly. And as I see it, it's really a consequence of very good federation organization, of a very high level of our competitions, and definitely many opportunities for competing and also for camps at different levels, club level, regional squads, national teams, Nordic clubs. So this whole mix provides quite a good number of talents, maybe not that good in terms of Scandinavia, but still I would say very good in terms of continent. And these talents, they are mainly good in map understanding, as I see it, because they have, at the age of 18, they have already done a lot of orienteering, and they do it really almost all year round. They know how to compete more or less because the competition is quite tough at Czech races. They have very good specific running capacity because, again, they do a lot of races. And nowadays, they also get sufficient training volumes. Some 20 years ago, we were really glancing at the Swiss, how their athletes are physically developing according to the, what is understood as proper for those ages. And our athletes, usually most of them, they were undertrained, which is not true anymore, at least not to my eyes. So this is basically, from my point of view, what brings this, I would call it early specific quantity approach. This early specific quantity approach brings success in our youth and junior age. Also with the elite team, recently there were several very good results, but of course, when we see how many good youth and juniors we have, and so we would like to get more success in the elite class. That's quite natural. So on that path, on that development path, what hinders us from further development towards podium success in elite class? And maybe now you are surprised that I am talking so much about national team and elite level, but that's the point, because this learnings I would like to bring down to the kids. So first I need to know how it should look at the elite level and where is the space for improvement. And maybe the coaches of the national teams would agree with me that one of the first points that you really notice at this ultimate international level is that talent is still important, but maybe not the most important part anymore. But the hard work in some long-term frame with some longer-term vision is really crucial for getting the success. If we look at the mechanism of navigation, I have the feeling that it's often quite intuitive and in a way passive, which then causes some instability and fragility. And also the navigation is often understood as jumping from place to place, like discrete spots, while this continuity and interconnection, how the objects are interconnected, is not recognized enough, which basically really torpedoes any attempts for navigation, for getting any more stable navigation. Then the practicing of basic O techniques, orienteering techniques, is often very underestimated. These contour direction exercises, the whole mechanism of being ahead and how to get better in that feature. People quite often think that these kind of trainings are something extraordinary, like a topping. While I think that is the opposite, actually. Then when it comes to performance analysis, which is extremely important, of course, for any improvement, then when you listen to these dialogues or if you talk to people, then you notice that quite often you stay on the surface and you don't address the root causes. So that's, for example, this solving which route you took, rather how you navigated. Then what is a really bad habit, even at the top level, is that the map training is somehow taken also in a quantitative way. So many athletes, they have good feeling when they are running with map in hand, but basically it doesn't bring them anything. And in some cases, if you run with the map in hand with no real plan, then basically it makes your navigation technique even worse. And then as for running and generally physical training, it's quite often solved mainly from quantitative point of view, unfortunately at quite early age. And I think this is the reason why some of the athletes are simply hitting the roof. For example, at the age of in the junior age, and then it's really challenging for them to develop further on that field in the elite class. I will come back to that as well. So my main focus and maybe my main competence was always the navigation, approach to navigation, and these topics. So a big issue for me is how to get stable, because just to describe how important this stability is at the international elite level is simply that this 1-2 mistakes race, you certainly know what I'm talking about. Simply if you accept mentally that simply mistakes are happening, and that if you do only 1-2 mistakes, that it was a good race. If you accept that, then you do a totally different kind of sport than those people that their mind set up in their heads is simply set on that they want to do a clean race. And I think this small invisible difference is basically dividing it into two different worlds. So first, maybe I would like to describe in few sentences my approach to navigation stability. And it will be really just a brief introduction, because this topic is huge, and that will be definitely something for a special lecture. But if I should define how I see it, then I see orienteering as a game with some winning strategy and also some tools that we are using to follow this strategy. That means that I really think that your thinking in the forest should be quite well structured, actually. Then a very important thing, if you think about how you implement.
Тебе ценник. Ты знаешь, кстати, ничего. Ничего, ну. Я родителям покупал, потом думаю, да, у них пока еще есть.
Please mute your microphones. If we think about how we do it in the forest, then we come to a conclusion that the eye contact is crucial. We are planning to get in touch with eye touch with some objects, and then we are implementing it, and we really want to see it, and we have to see it. So I call it like a flirting with objects. Then another thing, I understand the course as the whole course, not divided into legs, but divided into smaller steps. The basic, let's say, atomic steps between two chosen objects, which are interconnected by some technique. And like this, you move forward the whole course. And at some places, you punch the control. So when you think about it like this, then you can define that the navigation should be conscious. So I always know what I am doing. It should be continuous without any holes, because then I can't, if it's not continuous, then I can't be sure that there is no space for a mistake. And it should be a solution finding and solution implementing. And again, I always try to emphasize this word. And when we were working now together with Martin Binder in the Austrian team, that was one of our main mottos. And I think this word is really powerful if you have thought about it very deeply. It's really a big difference just to run somehow, or to have a solution which can be basically the same. It might look the same. You might run just straight, but it's a huge difference if you just run somehow straight, or if you are perfectly aware of what you are doing, that you really do the technique in a proper way, if it's the most important thing in that moment, and you know exactly what you want to see at the end, what will be the maybe safety line behind or stuff like that. And then I have a never-ending cycle in my head, which is that I always need to know what exactly I'm doing now until something that I want to see and what will come next. And this I solve continuously, again and again and again and again. And I'm also trying to talk to myself to get me back to these thoughts if it's not automatic. And I really believe that something like this will secure that that I am follow my winning strategy. I was talking about those basic techniques, and you could include maybe more things that I have included into this list, but for our purposes, I would name it as a map understanding, visible objects chain, direction, contour, and solution finding and planning. And what I am observing is that very often we stay at early stages, which means this map understanding and visible objects chain. This is the most typical way of how the people are navigate through the forest generally. But of course, if I am depending only on map understanding and visible objects chain, then in those cases, when it's not possible to perform the visible objects chain. Simply there is no visibility between the objects. Or it's so complicated and I need to find some simplified solution, because I also need to think about the flow at elite level. Then it's not good enough suddenly. And I see this as a really big problem. And actually our task is to get the athletes somehow to be ahead, because then they have the flow, and it's not only the flow, it's also much higher level of let's say navigation safety. So why is this happening to my eyes? And now we are getting really we are jumping down to these roots, to this kid's age. And what is happening there? Quite many kids, as I see it, is jumping directly into complex courses. And as a consequence, they are totally missing solutions for many of those situations. And as a result, they are learning chancing approach. Simply, if I don't know what I should do, then I just somehow run straight and I'm chancing. Why is this happening? I think in many smaller clubs, for example, the kids are simply added to some training group. Maybe there is only one training group in that club, or maybe only adults are practicing any trainings. So then they really need to catch up as quickly as possible, and there is no space for really some step-by-step development. Then, of course, the result focus, the very early result focus makes it difficult to focus on basic stuff instead of focusing on how to really be successful in the races. And then also what I can observe here, in, for example, in Czech Republic, that courses for age of 12 are somehow understood as that these courses are still for small kids, and these courses are quite often too easy. When I was a kid, it was more difficult, definitely, when it's than what is it nowadays, because at the courses for 12 years old, you use mainly roads still, and there are just some small shortcuts, but at some courses there are almost no shortcuts through the forest, while suddenly at the age of 13, 14, you are jumping with straight legs into almost real adult orienteering in many cases. And yeah, just a note aside, what is interesting that usually, let's say, the worst approach from that point of view can be seen at the courses of quite young course setters, which left this class just recently. So it's quite interesting that they don't remember how it was, how they understood the navigation in that age, and yeah. Then we have some kids string courses which were designed to help the small kids to run some races in the forest and not to be afraid that they are getting lost. I guess you have it in many countries. It's taped. It's taped not the optimal way, so you can at some places, but what is the problem is simply that there you are really learning bad habits, because if you don't know, you stick to those signs, and in most cases, I would say, those kids, because it's also run on time, so then many kids, they are just trying to run it as fast as possible, and they don't care about orienteering so much. So this is really ambivalent from my point of view. Then I can observe a very late start of direction keeping education. Many kids coaches are simply insisting that their kids are too young for using the compass for direction keeping. Basic orientation of the map is okay, but direction keeping through the forest, no. Then also in the kids groups and also at kids courses, contour objects are avoided, and maybe we even have it as some kind of like a rule or guideline that it should be like this. And this is also, it isn't something that I am in line with. Of course, you can do contour orienteering for those small kids, but on the other hand, if you do it correctly, then you can still show them some contour objects, and then everyone will have some motivation to really focus on that already at the beginning. I guess this is especially a problem where I live, because in our forest you will see the sample later. We don't need contours that much. Yeah, and the last point about direction keeping I was talking already about. So why all these things are the limit of further stabilization of race navigation later at national team level? The first thing is, of course, when you learn something in a wrong way, and you know it, for example, when you learn languages, if you have some bad habits, then it's really difficult to get rid of that. That's the first general point. And the more specific points from orienteering point of view, if you are not ahead, then it's really difficult to get better flow at elite races, and also to avoid mistakes, because if you are not ahead, then it's not you choosing actually the solution, it's not you choosing the plan. Then you are more or less, in many cases, you are just picking what you see, and of course this is really risky to mess it up. And if you are not actively searching for a solution, if you really don't understand orienteering as a solution searching and implementation, then you very often lean to the approach that if some situation is complicated and you don't have this routine how to solve it, then you simply chance. And as you learned it in many cases already as a kid, then it feels normal. And then talking about these basic atomic steps through the leg, if you are not precise enough there, which is also quite often, if you run direction, then just very few people really do it well. We were now recently talking quite deeply about all the features around direction keeping, and there are so many things which can influence the outcome. So to get really the right routine with this important tool is not that easy, and it really takes some time, and it really takes some focus. And then if you are not used to that navigation is a continuous process, then there are, of course, open windows for navigation mistakes. Because it's quite natural that actually at the spots on the course where you would need the solution most, because it's most difficult, and there at the same time you tend most not to use any solution and to solve it really in an easy way and chance. So basically this small issue, again quite invisible one, this is a critical one. And if I don't do it knowingly, that I am really knowing what I am doing, and this completeness of all the things are definitely not on that level that I would need for really aiming for a clean race. Here I would like to explain also how I understand the clean race, because of course myself, maybe I can say that I have ever done any clean race. I don't think that exists, basically, because if you are self-critical person, then you always find some seconds even at the best race. But you definitely need to have this as your ultimate goal, because then everything what you are doing is simply determined by this approach, and the quality of what you are doing is totally different. So now back to the kids. So what will your daddy will be doing now when having those 8-year-old kids at the start of their orienteering careers? When we have all this in mind, and so basically when I was doing these training courses with my kids, I was bothering them a lot. We never reached any good results at these courses. Basically, we were usually more than 20 minutes behind, I think, because Papa was always asking the kids to tell the stories about every single leg on the course. So I really wanted them to describe in their words, using the information from the map, the story about that leg, how we get there. And I really hope that they got somehow used to the fact that planning is fundamental. And when we were talking about the legs, and then I insisted that there is no this way pointing, like I already described. And it's quite important to force them to try to express it really verbally, because it's a huge difference in accuracy if it's just somehow expressed or if it's really exactly expressed, because as a side effect of this, you get also that they improve in map understanding and map science understanding, a lot because they need to use it so that they are able to describe it. Then I'm always asking, what do you want it to see? Instead of which way did you run, which I think is the most often used question in these terms. But I am really curious what they wanted to see, which this question includes both the fact that we are working with this eye contact, and also I am testing them if they had any plan. If now I'm talking about the situation when we were not running together anymore. So I'm testing them if they had any plan, or if it was just this way of navigation that you are just somehow picking the things that you are seeing around you. And talking about the bigger group, because for example, in our group, we had always like 30 up to 40 kids. And then it's totally impossible to talk to them individually. So to my eyes, a very good way how to fix that is that you teach the parents these basic principles, even when the parents are not orienteers themselves. So after, let's say, half a year, even non-orienteers start to be quite good in navigation at easy courses. And moreover, they are able, as adult persons, with a good overview of things in some complexity, they are able to transform this knowledge to the kids at home. And to my eyes, it's extremely important how the philosophy of navigation is presented and how you talk about this rhetorics. So if you have some approach at trainings, but if they talk in a wrong way about it at home, then of course a lot can be spoiled. Then at trainings, my approach is, and I really believe in that I always try to explain the task in detail before the session. I put much more stress on before training analysis than on after training analysis. And actually, my approach is the same both at the kids level and at the elite level, because I really can observe that if people know exactly what is the task and what are the risks and what are the solutions, then they are able to perform much better than they are usually able. And this is the way how they improve. And after the session, if the session was well explained, I think most of them, then they realize if they succeeded or failed and what was the problem. So in most cases, I was even or I'm even showing the enlarged examples of courses to the kids in beforehand, and we are talking about the solutions. We are talking about what you want to see there, how you implement it, where you should employ your compass. And then those which are attentive and motivated, they try to perform it this way. And I really believe they learn a lot from that. Then we started to learn how to run direction already at very early stage. But as I will show you later, it's really, really important how these exercises are designed, of course. If you do something what we call a Swiss game, which means that you have only map in the control circle, and outside control circles there is only the white. And if you do it for half a kilometer, 1 kilometer, then it's not an exercise anymore. Then it's an adventure, and that's a different discipline. We were also learning about the contours, even though we don't have so many in our training forest. So then we try to get out the best we can, and we were showing the contours in the terrain, and yeah, step by step showing first some contour objects and then try to interconnect it with contour leading lines. And yeah, I think it's quite natural, and this is again, yeah, this is something that maybe we are solving in our space specifically, because I believe that, for example, kids in Scandinavia, they somehow can survive it if they don't learn it very early. Of course, then I'm trying to include memory orienteering from time to time, because that's maybe the most effective way how to really force people to find these solutions, because you can't put everything, all the objects, everything in your head. So you really need to pick some, and you need to make a good plan. And so I think this exercise is really very effective, and it's effective on both the kids level and later on at the elite level as well. What is really a challenge is to continuously adapt the training courses, because the kids are really developing technically from month to month. Of course, each of them individually. So there was a period of, let's say, 4 or 5 years where I was forced to prepare basically all the trainings which were in the forest at several levels of difficulty in a one single session. So it was kind of rebus solving. I said in the forest because I believe you also noticed that in the city, in the urban orienteering and sprint orienteering, it's much easier for the kids actually, because there is everything in the map. The simplification is not that huge. The visibility is great. So it's much easier for them to navigate. At least that's my observation. Yeah, and what is really important from my point of view is that, especially training camps, each session has some special focus, not just running some courses the whole camp without any special meaning, because then of course the level of attentiveness is ceasing and decreasing. And so I'm trying to find a goal for each of the sessions exactly the same way like I'm doing it at the elite level, and I really try to get the people to be active when they are doing it, mentally active. And what is also important from my point of view is not to jump over some difficulty levels. which is sometimes unfortunately happening. For example, in the Czech Federation, we have a great thing. Basically, it's a very great thing. The stationary training camps in Scandinavia, where we have prepared courses, and the clubs are visiting the same place during the summer, and everything is prepared, and they can train in Scandinavia with their groups, which is super cool, and I think super bringing. But there is one problem that quite often I can see some kids that are very eager to go there, and the coaches, they are of course supporting it, and the kids that are not handling the basic navigation even in our easy continental terrains, they are suddenly jumping into this for us really complicated contour and direction based navigation Scandinavian terrains. And of course, they have no solutions for that, and they will not learn it within a few days. So in many cases, they are just fixing the bad habits again. So this is also important that we go really step by step. And first we navigate in terrains with good visibility, then with complicated terrains with good visibility, and then we start to navigate with worse visibility, and then we combine all this, and then we are ready to go abroad maybe. Now map. So this is just one of the examples of this is close to our clubhouse. This is our typical training forest, which nowadays, of course, we can't use it like this anymore because we know it. But when the kids were small, it was working. And this is, for example, an exercise which is combining the direction keeping exercise with some introduction in contours. The contours were really well explained, and you can see it. You can see that they were used only for the longer courses for the more skilled kids, while the shortest course, the same controls, is really offering a road solution for everyone, because we really had always some true beginners. Even after a couple of years, they were coming new people, so it was important to have a training for them as well. And you can see that there were these road solutions basically possible for everyone, even in the longest course. Of course, they were instructed how to do it. They were instructed that they should run straight, but there were big lines that they were caught by, and if someone wouldn't be successful, then they can have an exit plan and stick to the roads and paths. Now again, talking about the direction keeping exercise. I know I'm talking about it a lot, but for example, this is a really good example of that it should really be designed as an exercise which is doable, where the kids should really focus just on this direction keeping. They don't need to be afraid that they get really badly lost. So I marked in purple the areas where I erased the objects, but basically it's a wide runnable forest. Just the visibility is somehow lower sometimes. So a perfect place for starting to learn this skill. And here, for example, I was really surprised when we did this. This was a training of our regional kids squad, and I would say maybe 50 to 70, up to 70% of all the kids from all the clubs from the region, they simply didn't know what to do, even in the age of 13. So that's why I think that there is a big space here. And then suddenly, with basically the same kids, we are jumping into something that looks really difficult, really complicated. It's a limited map. You can see it's only contours and runnability. And this was last year in Pilsen. And again, there was a really huge proper before the session analysis and explanation what to do at each leg, how to solve it, what to look for, what to stick to, what will be visible. And as a result, this course was successfully completed by kids which were not even so again, a good evidence of that if you provide the solution, it's easier for them to do it, to make it, and the next time maybe they will themselves find such a solution on their own. Yeah, that was the navigation part. And now we have also running, of course, and don't be afraid, it will not be that long. But of course the kids are pushing and they are saying, we need to run. Why are we not running as much as the others, as the other club here in town and the others at Strava? So I needed to repeat a few years. I repeated, be patient, your time will come. And I can say, yeah, basically last year, this year, we really started to train somehow up systematically in a way that really moves the performance level significantly. But here there are some principles that I would like to share with you, my thoughts about this. I am not an expert on that field, but of course, after all those years, I have some experience. And so what we tried with my colleagues in our group, what we tried to push through was that we focused on variability of activities. I really think that what is really good to start with are the ball games, because then you are trying to simulate any like running exercises and dynamics and agility runs, and here you have all this delivered. This is simply great, and I wished we could do more, but there is not so much space for that because you don't have so many trainings with these kids groups, and it's also quite difficult to get the space in the gymnastics hall. But we tried. Then the running drills as a part of each session. Basically, no matter if it's a running session or if it's a map technique session, we always try to perform some running drills in the beginning. Also, we have in mind that maybe this way the kids simply get used to that. They learn it, and then it's more likely that they will perform it further on, maybe when they will be training with someone else or on their own. Then we try to work regularly on maximum speed and the dynamics. So that was the main focus actually. These agility runs in the wintertime in gym hall. Very short intervals on the tracks, some short up hills, yeah, steps. Usually, I know that it's nice, it's inspiring. It's definitely not a stereotype. Yeah, you just need to focus on that and then really do it regularly. Then we are quite happy that we have a real expert in our coaching team, Dasha, who is an expert on this neuromuscular development stuff, and she's really good in any kinds of exercises. So our kids, they get this delivered, and we really try to focus on disbalance prevention and stuff like that. Then the really important task, as I see it, is that the kids are finding a positive way to running, especially track and interval running. That they really get the feeling that it can be fun, it can be inspiring, it can be interesting to push your own limits. And yeah, how we tried to achieve that, from the beginning, we always had just reasonable demands according to the age. So when we started with some measured intervals, it was just, let's say, introduction, just 1 loop, 2 loops, short ones, just for fun. And the reactions were really good. Kids were competing, and during the development, we try to explain a lot what is the meaning, what with different sessions, with different way of trainings, and how to implement it in a proper way. And this higher knowledge about that, I think, makes the kids to do it more properly and maybe with higher interest. Then what was important when we started to attend the track, the 400 meters track regularly, was that I tried to find a way how to make the demands individual, or how to adapt it. So, for example, what we were doing was that we were starting together for, let's say, 200, 300 meters interval. And when the leading group was reaching the finish, then I whistled, and everyone stopped and jogged to the next start. So they all had the feeling that they do the same job like the best ones, but it was not too demanding for them, because you need to take in account that at one hand you have in the same group athletes that are able to run, let's say 1 kilometer in the kids' age of at 3:15, and then you have kids which are able to run at 6, 7, and you want all of them to have fun at the track, because the group is important, as I will explain at the end. And I'm also using quite often the sport ident measurement at the track, and again the response is very good. If it's in the winter, because our track is not lighted, then we are bringing even our own lights, so the stations are lighted. It has a special atmosphere, and it really works. And then we have some results, so we can even talk about it, because we are trying to tell them these basic things, like that first intervals you need to do with some reserve, and it's better if you run faster at the end of the training than in the beginning of the training, and all this stuff, so they can even check it themselves if they succeeded or not. And suddenly there is some different scale of that. We really tried to avoid volume training until having passed the puberty, which is very individual. Someone passes it at the age of 12, someone at the age of 16. And as a consequence, of course, it's difficult to really make it individual like this, but basically we started to do some more training, like, as I said, last year, when they were like 15, let's say, the core of the group. Very important is how to tell them how to handle the health issues, because it simply can save them many wrong steps taken on their route towards their orienteering careers. But that's really a challenge. It's not easy to really make them stay home if they don't feel 100%. And again, in running, it's the analogy to orienteering focus, but also in running, my approach is that I'm really glad if they execute the sessions properly, if they maybe do less, but in a proper way. If we worked with the sessions, if we developed the sessions, rather than just doing the volume and maybe getting into stereotype. Yeah, and the challenge is also to work with the rest in a good way, so that they really realize that the training effect is coming in the rest phase, and that not everything is just about the training impulses. Yeah, we are coming to the end. Patience. If I should look back on the last years, I would say that's one of the critical challenges that I faced as a kids coach in this age of 12 to 16. Why? It was not because the kids would not be nice to the coaches. No, I can't complain. We have a really great group. But the patience, in a way that I had to repeat this, later, because the environment is simply set in a way that too soon there are coming quite narrow selections for quite high status events, because we have Olympics for kids, which are even for kids in the age of 12. And when just one kid from the whole region is selected for that Olympics, then you can imagine, of course, for some kids, they don't care, it doesn't matter. But other kids, of course, they want to get to this Olympics because it's really a high profile arrangement. It's like real Olympics. The Czech Olympic Committee is really doing it well. So it's very attractive for the kids. But yeah, for example, if you look at the consequences, that some of the parents, they really train up the kids to be able to be selected to these Olympics. That's definitely too early. And the same, yeah, let's say problem I have myself with EOC, which is also it's only for kids from the whole nation. So again, the selection is very, very narrow, and many of these young athletes and their coaches, their parents, they really think that it's as it should be if they start to really train a lot in the age of 15 for these events. Yeah, to my eyes, that this is too early. Because then the question is, where is the peak? And the peak should be in the elite class. Then the kids need to stand the social media pressure. Yeah, this Strava and all the friends who will run longer, more, harder, which is definitely not contributing to focus on any quality and development activities, which are quite often difficult to measure, and you don't get any impressive numbers there. Then, of course, you get a huge performance lift when you are practicing complete courses of adult level, and when you do volume training with kids, which, as I described, is happening in some other groups, and then it's very difficult to stay patient and to explain to your kids that no, we will not do it like this. This is too much. Your time will come. I was talking about these differences in puberty arrival. Now, when I could observe it really on my own eyes at home, when my kids were going through this period, even more, I would insist that they should not do a lot before that, because this transition, this change is simply brutal. Then there is extreme supply of races, camps, club level, region, national team, Nordic club. I was naming it in the beginning that this is one of our strengths, but at the same time, it's really challenging to find a good rhythm there, to keep some priorities and to stay in some systematic way of training. And then we have some national youth testing in the Czech Republic from 14 years on. And again, of course, at one hand, a really good thing, but there are some features that maybe we could improve, because, for example, we are forcing 14-year-old kids to run 3K, which is, well, if they are not doing any volume training, then yeah, to my eyes, this is a torture. And when I see what is happening with their bodies after they pass this puberty, then I can see any reason why we should measure it before that, because to my eyes, the biggest improvement was really made by the nature, not by any training during that time. The picture on this slide is actually connected to one of the events that I really like, because that's the Czech regional kids teams championships. It's like a relay with 8 legs. And for example, our region is sending 4 teams of 8 kids there. So 32 kids are selected. And this is perfect. I think this is a really good scale of this filter and the motivation. You really, if you focus a little bit, if you focus on your orienteering, then you can make it into the team without any extreme effort, let's say. And of course, it's very prestigious. Yeah, and some last aspects I wanted to name. Of course, in our group, we were facing how to handle the prizes, praising the best ones compared to natural competitivity support, and that we really wanted to support mainly the individual improvement. So if someone is improving from 4 to 3.5 as a kilometer speed, someone else from 6 to 5.5, then it's good enough, and yeah, we should praise that as well. So basically at the end, we were competing quite a lot. We are using Sport Ident at most of our sessions, basically, even those we are running not competition speed. But if it's up to me, we never assign any prizes, not even candy and stuff like that, just extraordinarily and just small ones. Because I really think that the kids, they are competitive just naturally, and you don't need to support it too much and bribe them with some candy. What was really good was the engagement of parents from the beginning when we started the group. So basically, I was preparing in many cases also the courses for the parents, which could be basically some variant of the longest course, because many of them were beginners. But quite many of them, they stay now in orienteering. They started to be quite important even for the club. And they are very important for our group, also for not even for this home rhetorics I mentioned, but also logistics is extremely important. So we don't have any problems with traveling somewhere, because we always have enough cars, and all this is very important. Then, of course, we were handling the transition from homogeneous bunch of small kids into a team of very variable individuals who now become our partners. So from that perspective, this is really challenging, because when the kids are small, they don't have any, let's say, interpersonal problems with each other. They don't solve this. They just have fun. But as they are getting older, and then of course their personality, their individuality starts to be somehow, there are quite huge differences among them. They start to build the groups inside the group and stuff, and all this interpersonal work. I wouldn't call it work, but simply the setup or layout should be, yeah, enabling everyone to find its spot in that group, even further on. Yeah, then there is the question if we as coaches, as parents, coaches, we should stay with kids or hand over. Yeah, we are following with the kids, and for me personally, this is I really can't imagine that I would be the coach, the club coach of any other group, because I really don't know how we would handle it. As for logistics, as a big family with 3 kids, it's quite important that we have the same activities. On the other hand, there are clubs where they really move the kids from group to group as they are growing up, and yeah, I think it has its benefits. Considering the general long-term group vision at the start, this is quite interesting when I look at it now, that in the beginning, simply you don't see any differences, you don't know what will happen, you maybe don't even think about that they should be some racers, some real competitors at the end. It's really a kid activity, but then suddenly after 6-7 years, when it comes to that the training should be more serious, competing should be more serious, then suddenly you realize that, yeah, of course, some people, they have more talent, they have more desire, they have more, they more like to run, and some people, they want to do it more just for fun, just voluntary activity. And I don't say that you should pick just talented athletes at the beginning. You could think about it this way: if you would be really performance focused group, but yeah, I think in our case at least, it's that we really try to keep all these kids inside the group, because these kids, they are very important also for those who will aim for some results and competing, and even those who are doing it just for fun. They are very important because they are the basis of our pyramid. They are building the environment, and they are also very, very important for the club in the future. Of course, then we can face the group scale problems sometimes. If you want to enter some forest with only 1 car, with 3-4 athletes, making a small focused session in some good quality terrain, or if you have a group with 40-50 people coming somewhere, you always need a lot of permissions. You are very visible, and you need to have many cars and all that. So everything has its benefits and also its weaknesses. Yes. So, I used all the time. So these are the greetings from Czechia. These are our kids. And now I would like to open the space for questions if you are not sleeping yet.